She was shouting again. You can't build fences here. This is WA property now. Her voice echoed through the dry heat, the kind that burns your patience before your skin. I didn't answer. I just stood there, boots covered in red dust, looking over the line of half-built houses stretching across what used to be my open land. 35 of them, all built without my permission. All on my soil. They said it was a community expansion. They said the paperwork was approved. But I never signed a thing. I kept every title, every map, every deed my father left me locked in a metal box in my barn. And yet, there they were. Families moving in, workers driving nails, WA flags waving on my own property. Karen, the self-proclaimed WA president, strutted across the dirt like she owned it. Her sunglasses caught the light, sharp as her words. You'll have to remove that fence by tomorrow, sir. WA rules, she said. Sir, like it was an insult. I didn't move. I didn't argue. I just smiled, a small one, the kind that makes people nervous. Because they didn't know what was under this land, what I built years ago. She pointed at me again. Don't test me. We have authority here. I looked past her, toward the small hill behind the homes, the one with the old concrete tunnel no one noticed. I built that tunnel when I was 20. And behind it was the dam. I whispered, almost to myself, let's see whose land this really is. Karen didn't take my silence well. She waved her phone at me like a weapon. I'm calling the cops. You're trespassing on WA property. I almost laughed. Trespassing? On my own land. The sound of hammers and saws filled the air, the workers pretending not to notice the scene. I could see pity in a few eyes, but no one dared to speak. WA money had bought their silence. Within minutes, a patrol car pulled up, not county, not state. Some kind of private security, wearing black uniforms with shiny badges that said, WA enforcement. One of them stepped out, chewing gum. Sir, we got a complaint you're interfering with construction. Need you to leave the premises. I pulled out my folded documents, yellowed, creased, but real. This land, I said, was bought by my father in 1978. You're standing on private property. Karen snatched the paper from my hand and tore it. Fake, she screamed. You people always think rules don't apply to you. The guard stepped closer. Ma'am, you want us to remove him? She smiled, cold, satisfied. Yes. Get him off my property. They grabbed my arm, and that's when I felt it, that old military instinct kicking in, the one you can't unlearn. I didn't fight back, not yet. I just looked at the sky, calm, calculating, counting every second they thought they were in control. You're making a mistake, I said quietly. Karen leaned in. No, you made one when you didn't move. As they shoved me toward the truck, my eyes drifted again to the hill, the dam gate half hidden behind brush and stone. One pull, and every foundation they poured would vanish. I whispered under my breath, let's see how strong your WA really is when the river comes home. They dragged me to the edge of the property and threw me into the dirt like some trespasser. My hands hit the ground hard, but I didn't mind. I'd fallen harder in combat. The sound of their laughter stung more than the impact. Karen stood near her shiny white SUV, arms crossed, victory painted all over her face. This is what happens when you mess with the WA, she said loudly, making sure everyone heard. A few neighbors peeked from their new porches, whispering behind fences that didn't belong to them. I watched the dust rise from their car tires as they drove off. When the noise faded, I walked back to my barn. The old padlock was still there, rusted but solid. Inside, the air smelled like oil, rain, and old wood, the scent of history. My father built this barn, same as he built that dam with his own hands. He always said, control the water, and you control the valley. I pushed aside a tarp and uncovered the old blueprint. The lines were still clear, a narrow concrete channel running right under where the new houses stood. They had no idea what they built on top of. I turned on the radio. Static. Then the local news came through. WA completes phase 2 of their community housing project. My jaw tightened. 35 homes. On my land. That night, I drove up the hill. The moon was sharp, silver over the water held back by the dam gate. The sound of the current pressing against the barrier was like something alive, angry. I ran my hand over the rusted lever. One pull would send the river through the valley, straight through their perfect streets, their fake fences, their plastic dreams. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. I needed proof that this was my land. Proof that would make the whole world watch when the WA fell. As I turned to leave, I saw headlights on the road below. Karen's car. She wasn't done. Her headlights cut through the night like knives, bouncing off the trees as she drove up the dirt road. I stepped behind the old truck, staying in the shadows. She didn't see me, too busy talking on her phone, her voice sharp and fast. Yes, the old man's planning something, she hissed. We'll get the paperwork signed by tomorrow. I already paid the county guy. Once it's filed, the land's ours, legally. My jaw clenched. She wasn't just arrogant. She was corrupt. She had people in the system helping her steal what my father built. Karen parked near the dam gate, heels clicking against the gravel. She looked around with a flashlight, its beam cutting across the concrete wall. So this is where he hides his. Damn, she mocked, laughing to herself. Won't be his much longer. I stepped out from behind the truck. You shouldn't be here at night, Karen. She froze, light flashing across my face. You again. She tried to sound brave, but her voice trembled. You're trespassing again. I walked closer, slow and calm. On my land. You sure about that? She held her phone up like a weapon. I'm recording this. You touch me, and I'll have you arrested again. I smiled. Then you might want to record this too. From my jacket, I pulled a small drive, my father's old land survey scans, the county registry, and the military satellite proof showing this valley line belonged to my family. I held it out just enough for the flashlight to catch the edge. This, I said softly, as every lie you've told, dying in one file. She laughed. That fake, cutting kind of laugh. Who's gonna believe you, huh? The crazy old vet who thinks the world's against him. I looked her dead in the eyes. They will, when the water starts talking. Her face twisted, confused. What does that mean? I just turned, walking back toward the dam gate, my boots echoing off the concrete. The sound of the rushing current grew louder. Behind me, she shouted, you wouldn't dare. But she didn't know, I'd already dared long before she built her first fence. The next morning, the valley woke up to chaos. Workers stood knee-deep in mud, yelling over the sound of rushing water. It wasn't a full flood, not yet, just a warning. I'd opened the smaller gate, the one that bled pressure from the dam's edge. Enough to turn their brand new driveways into rivers. Karen showed up in a panic, wearing her WA badge over a pink blazer that didn't fit the weather. Who did this? She screamed. Who opened the gate? I was sitting on my porch, sipping coffee. Guess the land's trying to breathe, I said without looking up. She stormed over, shoes soaked, face red. You think this is funny? You're finished, old man. We're suing you for damages. I finally looked at her. You might want to check your permits before you talk about damages. She blinked. What? I held up my phone. On the screen, county database access. Every permit, every land document, every transfer file. The ones she thought she'd forged with her, paid county guy. I'd already sent them to the real sheriff's office, and the local news. Her expression cracked. You can't. Oh, I can, I interrupted. Because you messed with the wrong man's ground. Before she could answer, sirens echoed down the road, real ones this time. The county sheriff's SUVs rolled in, blue lights flashing off the wet asphalt. Karen stepped back, eyes darting everywhere. They're here for you, she snapped. I smiled slowly. Maybe. Or maybe they're not. The sheriff stepped out, tall, calm, familiar. Morning, Dad, he said. Karen froze. Dad, she whispered, staring between us. Yeah, I said, setting my cup down. Meet my son, County Sheriff James Walker. Her face went white. The workers stopped what they were doing. The sound of running water filled the silence like a heartbeat. You wanted authority, Karen, I said, standing. Now you've got it. Karen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. For the first time, the woman who barked orders like a drill sergeant had nothing to say. Sheriff Walker, my son, adjusted his badge and looked at her calmly. Ma'am, he said, we got multiple reports of illegal construction, forged land permits, and impersonation of county officers. You're gonna need to come with us. Karen's voice cracked. This is ridiculous. He's lying. He's manipulating you. My son raised an eyebrow. You forged my signature, ma'am. That's my name on your fake permit. Her knees almost gave out. I didn't know. Someone told me it was approved. I stepped closer, close enough for her to smell the dirt and sweat of a man who actually worked the land she tried to steal. You didn't care who you hurt, I said quietly. You just wanted to control something that never belonged to you. She spun around, screaming at the construction crew. Don't just stand there. Stop them. This is our community. But the workers were already backing away, whispering. The sheriff's deputies taped off the site, pulling the fake, law enforcement, badges off her hired guards. The illusion shattered piece by piece. Then came the thunder, low, deep, rolling from the mountains. My son turned toward the sound. Dad. Yeah, I said softly. That's the upper gate. It's full now. Karen's eyes went wide. You didn't. Please tell me you didn't. I pointed toward the hill. The dam loomed in the distance, and water began to trickle over the edge, finding its old path through the valley. Slow at first, like the land was remembering where to breathe. You built homes on a riverbed, I said. The water's just taking back what's hers. The sheriff gave me a look, not angry, just knowing. You sure this isn't too much? I nodded once. Just enough to wash the lies away. Karen fell to her knees as the muddy current swept across the half-built driveways, tearing down signs, washing away the fake boundaries she created. Her power, her pride, gone in seconds. But I wasn't done yet. I turned to my son. There's one more thing you need to see, I said. The camera footage from the day they broke ground. He frowned. Footage. I smiled. Yeah, let's just say she wasn't the only one getting paid. We drove down to the barn while the valley drowned in the sound of rushing water. The air smelled like wet earth and justice. Karen sat in the back of the sheriff's car, hands shaking, makeup running, eyes wide with disbelief. The queen of the HOA had finally lost her kingdom. Inside the barn, I pulled an old laptop from under the workbench. The screen flickered, then came to life, grainy footage from a hidden camera I'd set up months ago. My son leaned in as the video began. It showed the day they started construction. Karen stood beside a county official, both laughing. Then a man stepped out of a white pickup truck, shook hands with her, and handed over a thick envelope. My son's expression darkened. That's Deputy Carter, he said quietly. My own officer. Karen's voice crackled through the speakers. Don't worry, once it's all signed, he won't question a thing. The land's as good as ours. I paused the video. The silence was heavy. She didn't just bribe a county clerk, I said. She bought one of your men. He nodded slowly, anger settling in his jaw. Not for long. Outside, the sirens had drawn a crowd. News vans lined the road. Drones hovered over the flooded streets, capturing the chaos live. Reporters shouted questions, and every camera caught Karen in cuffs, yelling, he sabotaged the dam. He's insane. I stepped forward, holding up the real deeds for the cameras. My family has owned this land for 50 years, I said. The WA built illegally. The dam didn't break, it woke up. One reporter asked, Sir, did you plan this? I smiled faintly. Let's just say, I gave the land back its voice. Karen screamed as deputies led her away. You'll regret this. I'll sue you all. My son shook his head. You've done enough suing for a lifetime, ma'am. The crowd started clapping, slow at first, then louder. Farmers, neighbors, even a few of her former WA members. For once, everyone saw the truth. But as I looked toward the valley, the water still rolling steady, I knew one final thing remained, something even Karen didn't know. Because deep under that dam, wasn't just water. It was history. My father's final message. And tomorrow, the world would see it.